Hello, welcome to this look back at the work of CRI Video Department over the last 12 months. With me today is the one and only Jonathan Alpart.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Dominic.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you are host of a show called Soundstage.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, it's just a show about underground and grassroots musical acts and solo musicians in China.
Okay, and each episode you focus on one particular music group in China?
Right. Every episode focuses just on one, and it's kind of like a mini documentary style. So every episode has a pretty standard format. It starts with me doing like a goofy intro, trying to introduce some kind of interesting maybe contradiction or aspect about the band that makes them unique. Then there's an interview, and then a performance of one of their songs, original songs.
Hey, big family. It's Jonathan with the Soundstage. Hey, I got a question for you. What does eating noodles and rock and roll have in common? Absolutely nothing, right? Unless you're Beijing's local band, Mi San Dao, that are also the owners of this local noodle shop, Noodle Inn. And if that's not interesting enough, there's also something special about them that makes them look very different from me, for example. Can you guess what that is? Gotcha! You thought I was gonna say it's because they're Chinese, didn't you? Racist.
Okay, and for this look back at your work over the last year, you've chosen 3 particular episodes, so 3 bands.
Right.
Just give us a brief introduction to the first one.
Okay, the first band is called Mi San Dao. They're actually a punk band, and their specific style is the skinhead style, which I think originated in London, like in the 1970s. So I just thought it was interesting to see such a specific subculture recreated in Beijing, and I was just curious how they, interpreted that.
Okay, before we go on, let's take a look at that episode now. So, John, that was Mi San Dao. Why did you choose that band? I mean, over the past 12 months, you've covered many bands across China. Why did you choose this to talk about in this show?
I thought the interview segment was especially interesting, especially the drummer. I think a lot of people who have seen that have given me feedback thinking that it gave him quite a shock because he's a kindergarten teacher and he teaches children how to play drums. So I thought it was really interesting because especially in this country, people have kind of a poor conception about rock musicians in particular, that they're bad or kind of populate the lower realms of society. But here you have this drummer who's teaching children, and he seems to be a very nice young man.
He actually looks more likely to eat children rather than teach them.
Yeah, or beat them or something.
So Mi San Dao was your first choice, but there's 2 more. Next is Why. So let's take a listen to their music now. So, John, that was Why. Why choose Why?
Well, this band, Why, was one of the earlier bands of the series that I chose. That's when the show was quite new, and I was just kind of looking around for different acts. And Seth Coleman, our colleague, recommended them. He saw their concert in Beijing and took a video with his cell phone and sent it to me. And I was just blown away. I thought that their live performance was really interesting, and their music was really different than what I had heard before.
And fans of the Soundstage will also know, if they look carefully at the credits, that you not only present, you also edit the footage as well.
Yes.
And I love all the psychedelic effects that you get into this particular episode.
Yeah.
how difficult is that, and what kind of feeling are you trying to create?
Well, the video is just an extension of the music, really. So I thought with their music, it was very psychedelic. It was very visual. Like the bass player in the interview said that he was a painter by trade, or he studied painting in college, and he sees music as painting with notes. So, I thought, well, here's an opportunity to really play with that.
So you chose 3 examples to talk about today, and of course, you're going to choose some of the best bands that you've seen. But over the course of the year, you must have seen many, many Chinese rock bands. Tell me the truth, in general, how good is Chinese rock?
I think it's good. I think it's really good, like world-class good. I don't think that about all the bands, but I do think that there are a handful of bands that could make it anywhere in the world, New York, LA, if people gave them a chance. But I think, unfortunately, the label of Chinese is a bad label. People will see that and just pass them and think, oh, there's nothing interesting there.
So right now, the word Chinese is not so fashionable.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think a lot of people just, they don't understand China, and they don't understand, because they don't understand China, they can't accept that something cool would come from this country.
What needs to change?
Well, I think 2 things need to change on both sides of the ocean. I think I wish that Americans, in particular, since I'm from there, would be more open to it. I think when it comes to China, they're extremely close-minded, and they have a viewpoint about what China is, and they're very reluctant to change that viewpoint. But I also think part of the fault lies with China, that they're not promoting this culture. The only thing that they're promoting is this kind of saccharine pop music that, personally, I don't really think is very listenable. I like Wang Lihong, but that's about it. And of course, when they're competing with the American market, which does pop music better than anywhere else in the world, they can't win. So I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Here they have something that's remarkably unique and very Chinese, and shows something completely different to the Western world that they would not expect. I think that would have a much greater chance of success.
Okay, so you say there's lots of potentially talented bands out there. Another one of them is Nova Heart, your third choice. Give us a brief introduction to them.
So Nova Heart is like an electro band that uses rock and roll instruments, and it's headlined by a Chinese-born American girl named Helen Feng.
Okay, let's take a listen. So John, why choose Nova Heart?
Well, they're one of the hottest bands in Beijing. They're extremely popular. They've toured in Europe, I believe in America as well. And I thought it would be an interesting bridge of Western and Chinese culture, because the singer, as I said, was born in America. I believe she was born in America. Anyway,
she grew up in America.
Yeah, she's very, very Westernized, very, very Americanized, speaks perfect English. So she herself is kind of, a living bridge of the 2 cultures. And I just think their music is great.
In the interview, Helen Feng, the lead singer, has a lot of interesting things to say. And she says, in particular, now is a special time for creative people in China. Let's just take a listen to what she says.
As long as you do new things and you do it without fear, you can change things. I think the bar has been raised. People are starting to judge things based on quality. They still have the openness of thought. So if you can present a certain level of professional quality with a certain amount of new content, this market is a good place to break in as a young filmmaker. It's a good place to break in as a musician. It's a good place to break in. And it's also a good place to challenge yourself and constantly do new stuff.
So opportunities for people, artists, for music like this in China, do you agree that it's such a special time?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it ties back into what I was saying before, that people don't really understand China and what is happening here. I think maybe the average American might watch that interview and think what she's saying is nonsense, because they just don't understand the scope of changes here. And of course, with change comes opportunity, comes new ways of looking at things. And yeah, I mean, I think she's absolutely right. And it was a very interesting centerpiece of the video.
So just to recap, the basic concept of your show is each week you focus on a different rock band. Week in, week out, you're producing these shows. Is it really sustainable? I mean, how much talent is out there in China?
A lot. Well, it depends on how you define talent. I don't know if there are hundreds of Nova Hearts or Misandaos or Ys, but there's definitely a lot of young people forming bands who have something to say, who have some kind of unique spin on a certain style of music or subculture, or who have even created their own. I would say there's several thousand bands in Beijing alone. It's a city of 20 million people. This culture of rock music, or just, you know, creation of world music really, has really exploded in the past decade. So yeah, I don't think that will ever run out.
So we've been looking back at 2012, but looking forward to 2013, if you had to choose one Chinese band for potential international stardom, who would it be?
I think Residence A. I didn't choose them for this episode, only because I've personally promoted them a lot. I just wanted to kind of choose some other bands. In my view, I just think they're really great. They have they have a wonderful and unique sound, but it's also a sound that has a broad appeal, and it's also pretty fashionable right now. And they have a great live show. Their presence is amazing. The singer is just like really, I don't know, you just have to see them.
So just before we finish, as well as asking you about your own work, I'm also asking guests of this programme about a particular news story of 2012 which caught your attention. What did you choose?
I chose Gangnam Style.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
So Gangnam Style is this YouTube video. I think it was posted in the summer and now it's got over 1 billion hits. Why did this story catch your attention in particular?
Well, not only is it interesting in and of itself that it was just a huge viral video hit, but also it was from Asia, South Korea, and it was from an artist who was not well known, who was not singing in English.
Not well known outside Korea.
Right. Yeah, not well known in the world, singing in his native language. And also, you know, he wasn't really conventionally attractive. You know, he's not like Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, but he just blew them all out of the water. He came out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, and just had this huge hit. And he's from Asia, so it just got me thinking, you know, if they can do it, if he can do it, why not some of these bands that I've been covering? So I just thought that was a really, really interesting story that raises a lot of questions.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up there. Jonathan, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thanks, Dominic. Appreciate it.